The Talmud says that because of Kamza and Bar Kamza, Jerusalem was destroyed. Now, the Talmud continues and tells the story of Kamza and Bar Kamza. Who was Kamza and Bar Kamza? Kamza, there was this guy who had he made a big meal, a party, and he wanted to invite his friend called Kamza. And he had an enemy called Bar Kamza. And his messenger by accident called Bar Kamza and not Kamza, his friend. He called his enemy instead of his friend. This enemy of his, Bar Kamza, comes to the party, sits down, and the host of the party suddenly sees the Bar Kamza is there, his enemy. So he asks him to leave. And Bar Kamza is very... he doesn't want to leave in the middle of the party. Everyone's going to see. It's a big... it's a very awkward situation. So Bar Kamza says, don't ask me to leave. I'll pay for my meal. But the host of the party is very furious and he says, please leave the party right away. So Bar Kamza doesn't want to be embarrassed, so he says, I'll pay for half of the meal. He doesn't answer. And then he says, okay, you know what, I'll pay for the whole party. Just let me stay in the party and I'll pay for the whole party. The host is very furious and he throws him out of the party. Throws out Bar Kamza from the party. Bar Kamza gets very embarrassed and he gets very annoyed. He says all these so-called rabbis were there in the party and no one said anything. They just let him humiliate me in front of everyone. I'm going to go to the emperor and tell him that the Jews are rebelling. So he goes to the emperor and he tells the emperor the Jews are rebelling on him, and the emperor says, how do you know this? How could you prove this to me? So Bar Kamza tells the emperor, you know what, send them a sheep and send them a sheep and we'll see if they sacrifice the sheep in the altar in this temple or not. So the emperor sends a very nice sheep, and on the way Bar Kamza makes a blemish on the sheep so that the priests in the temple will not sacrifice the sheep in the temple, and then they'll send it back to the emperor, and then the emperor is going to get upset. So they send the sheep. That's what happens. They send the sheep back to the emperor. They don't want to sacrifice the sheep because it has blemish, and the emperor gets very upset. He sends the troops to destroy Jerusalem. Now, the big question that is asked on the story in the Talmud is, why does the Talmud start and say, because of Kamza and Bar Kamza, Jerusalem was destroyed? Okay, Bar Kamza went to the party, he got thrown out of the party, he got humiliated, upset, and he went to cause Jerusalem to get destroyed. But what did Kamza do? Kamza didn't do anything. He didn't even get invited to the party. He stayed home. So one of the explanations of the story is, I heard last week in the radio, it was very interesting. The explanation they said was that, who was this Kamza? Kamza was the father of Bar Kamza. In Aramaic, Bar means a son. So Kamza was the father of Bar Kamza. And it's very strange that Kamza was a good friend of this host of the party, but his son Bar Kamza was his enemy, which is very strange. Why would a son of a good friend of someone be an enemy of his? So what happened in those days was people were very unhonest. And this Kamza wasn't really a friend of the host of the party. Inside, he really hated him, but he did like he liked him. He showed outside like they were friends, but in the house, he talked about him. He said how much he hates this person. Then he went outside. He worked with the guy. He's like, oh, they were like best friends. But in the house, he was telling his children how much he hates this person. He can't stand them. So the children grow up and they hate the person. So Bakamsa hated this host of the party, and he was his enemy. Even though his father was good friends with his outside, but so that's what was the phenomenon those days. That people were so unhonest that they did like they were good friends of at work. They were good friends, but then when he came home, he was telling everyone how much he hates the person. He can't stand them. And then his kids grow up and they hate the person also. And then so yeah, Bala Kamsa caused the emperor to destroy Jerusalem. But it all started in the cause with his father that was unhonest and was talking about people behind their back. If he had a problem with this guy who was the host of the party, he should have come up to him and told him the problem, and not behind his back tell people that he can't stand him, he doesn't like him. So he was also part of the reason Jerusalem was destroyed. And until not these days, they say that every generation the temple wasn't rebuilt. It's like we destroyed the temple in our generation. Because if we were worthy of having the temple, we would have it. Since we don't have it in our generation, it's like we destroyed it. And we see until these days, we all, I could say personally, I do the same thing sometimes. I can't. I don't have what it takes to approach the person himself. So I just talk about him behind his back. So I hope we all could really improve. And first of all, we could, if we have a problem with someone, we could approach the person himself instead of talking behind their back. And second of all, even if we don't have what it takes to talk to the person, we don't have to talk about him behind his back. We don't have to make other people hate that person. Just because I don't like a certain person doesn't mean everyone else does it, has to not like that person.